Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Live Reality Games podcast on Survivor Maryland Major Conflict. We are on episode 12, Colder Than My Ex-Girlfriend's Heart. Now, I'm here with my co-host, Naomi. Naomi, was this the best quote, or was it the 2016 Do You Feel the Burn quote?
Oh, that made me laugh really hard. I think it was, he's more of a Hillary guy. That made me laugh my ass off, to be quite honest. But this one was great because I saw the title and I was like, oh, who's going to say this? It's like one of the first times I've ever been like, who is going to say this title? And then when Dane said it, I was like, okay, Dane. And then when he said, actually, I don't have an ex-girlfriend, I was like, okay, Dane. All right, thank you. So, it was a great episode. I had a lot of fun watching.
So I think we should just start talking about our favorite player, Dane, and just kind of walk through him, because this was kind of Dane's episode. We got to see so much more into Dane and his game and really his thought process than we really have in the prior episodes.
Oh, Dane. I think Dane had the correct instinct of I should win immunity.
Yes, that was an amazing instinct, because I think this would have been very different if he had lost.
I think that Dane is expendable, and he has suddenly come to notice it. I don't know if he's like fully woke to this fact, but he has come to notice that he's expendable. Mm-hmm. And that means that he's looking for opportunities to make sure that he is safe and that people value his alliance.
Now, he doesn't quite put it that way.
Right.
He was like, I need to like prove my worth in it's something like proving my worth in the game. I need to win immunity. This is my challenge to win. I think he recognized, it must be from, he recognizes that, hey, I'm on the edge, like you said, but he still doesn't quite verbalize that to us, the viewers, which I thought was fascinating.
It's funny. I feel like the more games I play, the more I watch. I've never watched somebody get to the end and be like, well, you didn't win any challenges. Like, I've never once thought that not winning any challenges was indicative of a worse performance. No. Certainly winning more challenges is maybe beneficial, but realistically, I've never considered somebody who didn't win anything to be lesser than in my eyes.
Didn't Courtney talk about this in the Survivor China finale when John Robert was giving his jury speech?
I think. I won an immunity. How many immunities did you win, John Robert? like Sandra Diaz-Twine never won a challenge. And that's. This is all to say that I think what Dane is actually seeking, and I don't know if he understands this, is he's seeking to prove that he's committed to the game and he's committed to playing Survivor. Mm-hmm. He's not necessarily he thinks he's trying to prove that he's like a competitor and that he's playing really hard. Mm-hmm. But the immunity certainly shows that. Going for hours on a poll shows that. But it more so just kind of reconfirms to everybody that Dane is in it for the long haul and he's here to help you play the game. Yeah. Whereas you see somebody drop out in like 5 minutes and you're like, well, they don't care. You know, it's that sort of mental jump rope.
Sadie, I have Adele wrong. But I'll say for Dane, like, I think it's to the extent like you and I both are kind of like, challenge immunity wins aren't a big sway on us and our jury votes. I mean, still something, right? You can still something you can point at if you are going for a strict like Survivor by the numbers. What if the following have you done? I still think a story is way more compelling than just listing out accomplishments, but it's a step in the right direction for Dane.
Absolutely. And if Dane, can turn it around and say, hey, I started winning immunities. I started making sure that you couldn't vote me off. And now I'm here in the end. Great job, Dane. Yeah. That's a good story. It's a good speech. But I worry that Dane is just going to get caught up in the competitiveness of it and not focus on the bigger picture, which is I kept myself safe when I knew I was in danger, especially considering the only other option became Angie, and Angie is a huge threat. Like, if it was him against Santi or something, sure. But he basically fought it out against somebody who easily could have won immunity and then his ass was on the line.
Yeah, and I also liked how Dane really kind of verbalized, I think the first time in my knowledge, what his end game was. His end game is getting him, Angie, and Tim sitting together the final three. I think he loses to Angie if he does that. Yep. But he at least set out, like, here's what I want, here's what I accomplish, and maybe come final four, he swaps out Angie for Abby or Delaram. and therefore he might have a pretty good chance at victory against Tim. It all depends on what things are like at that point.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody in Survivor verbalize, this is the final 3 I want, and it just happens. Maybe rarely, but I think it's interesting. I've always thought about it when you play your game, right? You're like, okay, what's my final 3? But it never happens the way you want it to happen. And you have people in there that you wanted to vote out. So I actually think like Dane could luck into being in a final 3 with like Tim and Abby if he like accidentally stumbles into that. Because Angie is such a threat that if Dane is working to keep Angie around, then Angie has the potential to be his shield, that he doesn't even know it. It's really funny. It's like Dane is doing all these things where you're like, I guess that's a good idea. Okay, go off. But you're like, I don't think this is going to work. But if it does, good for him. Like, it's
at least at the moment, both he and Angie are both on the edge of being voted out. It makes sense for the band together, pull Tim, and they end up successfully persuading Santi and Doug and keeping, which I thought was miraculous, the same 5 that voted together last tribal council voted again together this tribal council, and that was impressive. It's
a good sign, and it says to Santi definitely needed to get rid of Sadie in this situation, so it's a good appeal to Santi. Doug was the flipper in this whole situation, where Doug could have gone either way, and he went no way because he took the coward's way out. And that's like the crazy thing is, at this point, Dane and Tim and Santi and Angie are playing very hard, and they haven't made buddies with everybody. So they're saying, look, it's our group. We got to go forward together. Whereas Doug has made so many friends that he is hurting feelings left and right as he's eliminating people. And if he's not careful, like, he has to be sort of timid. I guess overall, I was just really fascinated with the dynamics of how everyone was behaving this episode. Who was trying to be really bold and make power moves, and who was trying to sit in the background. So I just wanted to know what you thought of like the choice of Sadie to go home for this 5 alliance.
I mean, I think it's great if you're Tim because it gets Doug closer to you. I think it's great because Dane because it takes out power player who's gunning for you. It's great for Angie because you've kind of burned that bridge. She's gunning for you. I'd say it's kind of mediocre for Santi because it really seemed like Sadie wasn't targeting Santi, and Sadie wanted Santi in this final 5 potentially. And I think it was just, I'd like to say I think it was honestly bad for Doug.
Yeah.
Like I think Doug, unless you're looking to maybe keep Angie and use her as a perennial shield now, where everyone's like, well, we can always vote on Angie. I think Sadie was a person who was not going against you, was not only in your court and gave you options. And so that's why I was really surprised to see that Doug did choose to vote her out now versus like the final 5.
Why didn't Doug have it is crazy to me that Doug, out of all people, someone who has essentially some of the most social capital in the game, was not really able to sway the vote onto Abby or Delaram, because at most Delaram has the connections from the old Yellow tribe and Abby has the connections from the old, Maroon tribe, but they're so nothing that all you have to say is like, look guys, like, they're going to take our spot at the end. Let's get them out, whatever. But the larger picture is, I can't believe Doug did not utilize his social capital in this situation.
Well, it's not like he didn't use his social capital. I think Abby and Delaram being split up would have been so much better long run, right? Because yes, like, okay, so Sadie's upset, you took out another one of our allies, and then you say, look, we're going to flip back to you now, and it's going to be us 4. You can say, I was just so uncomfortable with those 2 being in the final 5, and in fact, I talked to them, and they let slip they were going to vote us out. You could probably make up stories about this to really say, hey, they were really kind of being clear that they weren't with us, and this is a problem. I'm fine with you +1, but not you +2. You could probably sell that story and somehow make Sadie grudgingly admit, especially if you end up playing instead the immunity idol for Sadie this round too. That would be another option. Like, 3 idols is a lot. And I understand, like, when I played Real Foot, I got voted out final 7, the idol in my pocket, because I wanted to play it. I was so focused on the final 6, playing on the final 6, that I just didn't play it when I knew I could have known at least 2 votes. And I think...
And the other thing is, like, I want to ask you this, is like, do you think that would have diminished Sadie's threat level if he plays the idol on her.
Oh, well, I think the answer is you give her the idol. You don't play the idol her. I think you give her the idol. Like before Tribal Council say, hey, play this, you'll need this.
Interesting. Because maybe if I'm Doug, there's two options, right? You give her the idol, like you say, or there's like the Jeremy and Second Chances option, where you just go, I can't do this, I can't make this, I don't want this vote to happen. I have an idol, I might as well use it. And you play it on Sadie, essentially diminishing her threat level and elevating your relationship between the two of you. But also at the same time, you keep Sadie around to be a threat, at 6 or 5 when the one time you don't have your idol to play.
And so I'll push back a little. I think Second Chance.
I'm not saying I'm right. I was just curious.
I think Second Chance had a lot more fluidity around it. That really kind of allowed that to occur. Granted, Stephen Fishback went out the Tribal Council afterwards, so maybe that could be the case where simply you don't want Sadie going out final 8, you want Sadie going out final 7, right? You want her going out at a different point in time, and maybe that'd be enough. And if you're Doug, do you need more cred from other players? Do you need a bigger target? Not really.
No, you don't. But at the same time, if my big thought is, will Sadie be pissed off that Doug was a little baby in this episode and did not vote her out? Like, he just kind of wussed out in all options. And if I had an alliance, let's say we were in an alliance and you voted me out, I'd be like,
okay, I like where this is going.
But if you don't vote me out and you just vote for somebody else, but you could have saved me, but you didn't want to make that move, and instead you just took the route that would literally affect nothing, I would be fucking pissed. I would be like, why are we in an alliance? Why did I, dedicate my game to help you do well if you're not going to give me something in return or be a true player and say, I'm going to cut you out because I can't change anyone's mind. It blows my mind that Doug made this move. And
that Doug just let her go.
Not only did Doug just let her go, but that Doug let her go with no respect, with no either vote for you or say, hey, I have to vote for you because my alliance is going to, and that's what I have to do. Or even just go up to Sadie and say, they're voting for you. I don't have I can't do anything about it. And
I can't do anything with my 2 idols.
I can't do anything about it with my 3 idols in my pocket. It is a shitty situation for Doug to be in. I understand, but he basically handled it like when I wanted to dump my boyfriend in high school, which is just ignore him till he hates you and then he'll break up with you. It's just is such a stupid. You have to be. All good Survivor players are good at expressing and communicating. That's part of it. It's why they win in Final Tribal Council and all that stuff. But the bigger part of it is you can't shy away from the coward stuff. You can't shy away from the hard parts of Survivor.
Yeah.
Is my overall thought.
Gosh, I was thinking of something and it totally slipped my head. Oh well.
I mean, overall, go ahead.
I was thinking, me voting out. Should we have an LRG podcaster Survivor nights? I think that'd get ugly real fast, but it would be entertaining to see what nonsense would occur. Can we talk the talk, but can we walk the walk, Naomi?
I can't talk the talk. Well, I can talk the talk. I can't walk the walk. I want an org by talking, not by physical challenges. And Kirk has a great point here, which is how you vote someone out is a good gauge of how well you could win the game. If you can be that sort of, used car salesman, that sort of slick, snake oil man, then yeah, it's a good chance you could win the game. But if you shy away from it and you shy away from the hard parts, you are not respecting the people you're voting out. And when people get voted out, they feel disrespected. And the biggest thing you can do is show them respect.
And, something else I didn't like is we saw in the preview for next episode is we see Doug and Santi really courting Delarom and Abby. From what seemed like kind of saying, hey, let's just work together, 2 pairs, final 4, let's do this. And I get the sense in the previews that Abby and Delaram are pretty ticked off of being lied to and like put in the minority twice in a row. Now, I don't know what they'll do or will that take it.
Do you want to work together?
But like, I was just like, man, like if you are going to take out Sadie, it's like, why don't you go to them and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what the majority wants. And like, I think that like going forward, we need to work together. But like at the moment, we're going to acquiesce. So at least give them heads up to like try to shape it so, hey, this is happening. You're not a minority. Yeah. We are going to work in the majority. I know we're not working with you right now, but there's reasons why this is occurring. I don't know.
No, I totally agree. And you know what I think it is? It's the move of saying, I will save you tonight. You're going to lose somebody, but it won't be you. And that's because of me. It's a tough move to pull off entirely because it does make you look like kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
But what you basically have to say to this person is, hey, look, I do really want to work with you. And we saw it, spoilers for Survivor Michigan season 3, but we saw it work so well in Survivor Michigan season 3, where people said, I will look out for you and you will look out for me. We will lose people from our sides, but that is just to ensure that we go further. And they could have done that. They could have said to, Delaram and Abby, like, hey, we're going to keep you safe and get rid of the biggest threat to win, so that it opens the doors for all of us. I think there's also the level that I don't really know is how much are Delaram and Abby aware that like Santi and Doug are the people to beat? Like, do they know they're number 1 on the list?
I have absolutely no idea what's going through their heads. I am not the Abby Delaram whisperer. Like, I'm sure they've had discussions with Sadie. They surely have picked up that those two are the bigger fish in the pond, and maybe what they're going to do is realize, like, okay, Doug's been doing this to us. Doug and Santi have been training this final 5. Let's go work with the other 3 instead.
Yeah, I mean, I think also like people are, upset about this season or not loving it like they love other ones. And I was rewatching a little bit of All Stars, and I just think that what we're so used to in Maryland are these really articulate confessionals where people are dissecting every single move that they're trying to make. And we get that here with a couple people. We get it with Angie. We get it with Doug. We get it with Dane, actually, a little bit this episode, even if his ideas are insane. But the inherent problem is that we're not getting it from the people on the bottom. Because when you think about season 2 and someone like Nicole Senti, who plays a very similar game to these 2 girls, Nicole Senti is at least always verbalizing how she feels, and we're always understanding where she's at. And I think what people might not realize they're frustrated with is just that they don't know where Delaram and Abby are at. I'm actually not terribly frustrated with their gameplay as I am that I want to get to know them better. Yeah. Girls, come give me something. Tell me something. What is up? I'm also realizing that you can see that I have a framed photo of myself in my room. And I just want to say that my parents put that there. And this is my childhood bedroom.
Very likely.
It's like a memorial to myself.
Are you the person who gives like a secret Santa gift? It's a signed photograph of yourself in a frame.
That's not a bad idea. I had a friend send out Christmas cards of just him once, and it was like my favorite thing I've ever gotten in the mail. It was so funny.
I'm doing a wild gift exchange, and my gift is a face mask with a picture of every single faculty member's headshot on it. It's gonna be hideous. I'm excited.
I have to think of a gift for a friend of mine who likes Marvel. She's my secret Santa, and I have to figure it out.
Survivor buff. There you go.
Hey, I know you don't like Survivor, but I got you the Survivor buff.
You should come watch with me. Anyhow, so we've talked about Doug. We've talked about Dane. Let's talk a little bit about Sadie and kind of talk about her game as a whole and where it was and maybe kind of what went wrong here.
Let's memorialize my winner pick. I really wanted a girl to pull it out. And I still have faith in Angie. I have a lot of faith in Angie. But damn, I really wanted a woman to pull it out again this season. Not that Emily wasn't a great winner last season. Sadie. Where do you want to start? I just have so many thoughts.
I think we should kind of differentiate between pre-merge and post-merge. So I think pre-merge, I think we are both pretty impressed with the breadth of what she was doing. And post-merge has kind of, unfortunately, been the story of her, Delaram, and Abby are a trio and working together. And that's kind of the extent of what we've seen.
Yeah, and Sadie was doing such a good job in the pre of like I thought she might have been in a big bad spot because of like her relationship with Eric and how Doug was going to handle that she was really communicating independently with Eric, but that didn't affect her really. And I just think that the move she tried to make last week, what's great about, I'll go back. I just have to touch on it again. I think you have the thing. Like we just keep going back to All Stars, and this is because in All Stars we see these situations where people are lining up relationships on the other side. We have Christy and Holly. We have, like Ashley and Alex G. Like these relationships are so interconnected. And obviously part of that is they knew each other beforehand. But part of it is you say, this is my person that I don't want to let go of.
Mm-hmm.
But that person has to know it. And so if Sadie wanted to work with Angie, she should have been saying weeks ago to Angie, I am keeping you safe. Mm-hmm. You are fine. Mm-hmm. Work with me. And she didn't put in the work to pick up the person on the bottom. And Santi did. And like that's really where you can kind of attribute all of these failures to. Josh goes home because Angie doesn't vote with them. Sadie goes home because Angie doesn't vote with them, and also Doug doesn't do anything. But this you got to pick up the people on the bottom.
And that she did a fantastic job pre-merge, really playing this middle role where she wasn't in the South Campus 4, but she was in the Majority Alliance, and she really was the pivot point between the minority members and the majority members, and really kind of keeping tabs on both sides of the game. And then come swap, she continued to do so, and she and Doug worked to really take control of the tribe and make relationships. Yep. But come merge, it really felt like her story was so one note. We don't even really get a sense of how she accomplished this either, but she ropes in Abby and Delarom and forms this really strong apparent trio with them, and like starts trying to lay out like final 5 plans, but everyone sees it. Yeah. Everyone's like, this is a problem. This is a 3 together. And like when we saw that in 2 episodes, we're like, wait, they're a trio? Where'd this come from? Like, why haven't we seen this yet? And then we start seeing it. This in the previous episode, like, okay, I guess it's a thing, but it's so transparent, so obvious. And it's like, why, if you're Santi and Doug, would you walk into a final 5 with that? Granted, Doug has 3 idols and therefore probably could walk into anyways and not care. But if there were no
walk
idols,
over some train tracks
into that, and it just felt like the game became too transparent. She was, and like as like, okay, you formed those, like instead of having 1 pocket vote, you're having 2 pocket votes. That's a problem. Second of all, we didn't see her really outside of Doug and Santi. We didn't really see much of her game with other players, which is an issue. And it really came like she was more reliant on Doug than Doug was on her.
I don't think we even saw a lot of her and Josh together. And Josh basically flipped on the guys who, like, I think I guess what I'm saying is that I think Sadie had a lot of short-term relationships, and she had just lucked out that Delarom and Abby were a short-term relationship that ended up lasting. And I don't know. I feel bad for Sadie. I think. Sorry. Well, do I feel that bad for Sadie? No, I think Sadie overall just had a situation where she was in a good spot, partially because she was on Dane's coattails, Doug's coattails, not Dane's coattails. And Doug said, okay, I think I'm going to go do my own thing. And then she was left holding the bag. She didn't know what to do.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and that's her fault, because in this game of Survivor, you have to assume and you have to be operating under the assumption that eventually your alliance is going to fall apart. I think it's actually what we see in a lot of early Survivor and early foreign Survivor in particular, where people are playing the game and they're like, this is my really big alliance and I love them so much. And then they get down to like 7 and then they're like, all right, mate, you gonna vote with me? And they're like, no. Like,
I mean, when the first time I played a live reality game, I was sitting in an alliance of like 9. I'm just like, 7 or 8. I think it was 7, yeah. And I was just like, my gosh, I like all these people so much. I don't even know who I'd vote against. I'd be like, go in at all. I was just so happy to be in an alliance, and like I I liked everyone, and I didn't even know what to do. Of course, then people flipped. I was a minority. Then that solved the problem for me, as they're all picked off without my consent.
It's so funny because like for me, I had the same problem where I'm like, I'm on a tribe, and I'm like, this tribe, I love this tribe, and then my tribe loses, and I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And then sometimes it's me. Like, it's just such a curse when you fall into the trap of like, I like everybody, what do I do? And I say this because I think a lot about Australian Survivor season 1, that like the one of the modern era, not the one in like 2000, where they basically have this huge alliance where they're like, haha, isn't being in power so fun? Okay, let's eliminate the people that we don't like on the fringes, and then we'll be like the core. And then there's like one outsider who, spoiler alert, gets to the end because they are able to weave and sort of manipulate their way through this big fracturing group. And if Angie could do that, this season would become one of my favorite seasons ever because I love Angie so much and I just want what's best for her.
Would the season be how Angie won or why Doug lost? Right? Because Survivor can sometimes be two things. It's right now. Sometimes that's why a person wins, but sometimes like, why did Russell lose again?
Because Russell sucks. No, I'm just kidding, but I'm not. No, I think you're totally right. It's like Doug. If Doug keeps not treating people with a little bit of respect, I think Doug is losing the game. And I actually should ask Josh this, but I don't want to spoil myself too much. It's like, how did you feel seeing that one person didn't vote for Sadie? And did you know that was Doug? Okay, because I was thinking, I was like, I got this great resource of Josh here. What do I ask him about this episode? And then I didn't ask him anything.
It's Thanksgiving. It's allowed.
It's Thanksgiving. Yeah, I guess. Oh, let's talk about this challenge because the icon is back.
As much as I love Dizzy Bet, this is an even more favorite challenge. The standing on the pole in the cold while freezing at night, because it's always winter when this challenge airs. It's my favorite.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
Are you not pumped for this podcast? This is not the highlight of your Thanksgiving week.
Okay, so my mother is a psychopath who keeps the house so cold. So I'm like so wrapped up in blankets that I think I'm like tricking myself into like being swaddled like a baby. So I'm yawning a lot. My favorite thing about this challenge is it's an endurance challenge that you don't necessarily need to be super strong to endure. One of my least favorite challenges I've ever done, no, not because I didn't like the challenge, but because I was so shit at it, was in Survivor Buffalo, where we had to hold 2 cups with liquid in them up. So like this, but like extended out, almost kind of like the scales of justice. And it fucking hurt after like 2 minutes. And I was like, in my head, I was like, you need this. I literally went home that round. And I was like, you need this. You need to win. You need to try. And my just weak little frail upper body could not do it. And I was so upset that I I couldn't even push through in an endurance challenge because it was so difficult on the way that my body's structured. But could I hang from a pole for hours? But I bring gloves. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, it's so I just think it's very funny.
Endurance challenge.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, particularly for that reason, because it's not like the Survivor one where you have to be up really high and you have to hold your own body weight, essentially. This one is just all about like commitment. Like, can you stay on it and find the focus?
So I just don't understand why people don't just hang out at the Immunity Challenge for the inevitable deals occurring. Now, granted, this is a 2-hour-plus challenge. Like, props to Angie, props for Dane for doing that. And people have better things to do on a Saturday night, probably studying. But we saw Chris T in Survivor Maryland All-Stars bring his homework and was there doing homework between the players. I forget who was standing, but he was still there.
It was Victoria and Holly.
Yeah, he was there brokering deals between them.
They couldn't repair the rift of. They were trying so hard to repair the rift of being paranoid about each other voting them out. And I agree. I think who could have capitalized on this opportunity actually the most is Tim, because I think Tim needed to get something for Dane. Hey, Dane, I helped you get that immunity by convincing Angie to step down, and lock in Angie to say, hey, Angie, I'm with you now. Dane doesn't even speak for me. I speak for me, and I'm with you guys. Because the harder part is when someone goes, "Hey, don't worry, this person is with us," and you go like, "Are you sure?" That's where I think Angie's hesitation came in.
Yeah, Survivor Maryland players for season 16 and forward, whatever ones have yet to be aired, please camp out, like be there, broker those deals. I mean, you even hear Dane saying, "What are you doing? Go home, don't stay here." But like, no, stay there, because you either want to like help facilitate these conversations or squash them. You want something, and so you want to encourage one of those two outcomes to happen. Because we just see a lot of back and forth between Angie and Dane, where Dane's like, "You're my number one. I'm going to end with you. I really need this. I'm going." And just like, "Oh yeah, you're my number one, but I really want to win this too." And so yeah.
Dane is like when you have a boyfriend that you've gone on like 2 dates with, or like you've been dating a month, and he's like, "I've really been picturing our lives together," and you're like, "Whoa, hello, it's been a month." But it is funny. Like, I do think you get a more appropriate reaction. So if Tim is there, he's like, "We're the final 3," and that's more believable, I think, than saying, "You're my number one."
Oh yeah.
It's saying, "These are the plans I have. It's very clear. There's only so many people, and it's not going to be Santi and Doug. I'm taking you two." And that brings a sense of comfort, because it also kind of holds a gun to Tim's head and says, "You're going to take me to the finals, right? And if you don't do that, you're betraying this alliance that we've created." But it also gives Tim the benefit of saying, like, if Angie gets voted out, saying, "Oh, you were going to be here in the finals with me, but it was just, this, so-and-so won immunity, and that meant that we had to choose the biggest threat to go out." In a situation where, like, let's say Santi wins immunity at Final Four and they can't keep this Final 3. And the other thing that we see in Survivor Maryland All-Stars is that Chris is getting information and then dispensing it in a way that benefits him best, but is also retaining a lot of secret information and solidifying his bonds even further with Holly and Victoria. Because Victoria will be like, "Well, I don't know why. I don't know if I want to work with Holly all the way." And that's information. If Dane says to Tim, "I don't know if I actually want to work with Angie all the way, but I do know that I want to keep her around for one more vote," that's great information to have. If you're in a spot like Tim, and even Doug or Santi could have really capitalized on this, but they didn't. And I think you're completely right. Who do you think? Do you think it would have helped if Sadie or any of the girls stuck around? I'm curious what your theory is.
Maybe they've been more quieter. Maybe like this was a chance for Sadie to maybe bring them over, talk to them one-on-one and bring them over to her side. Or maybe we simply see it just maybe becomes Angie versus Dane battling out for 4 hours. Who knows?
I would have loved to just watch like Dane
suffer.
Dane like suffer, but then also like, try and like work with Delaram or something and like be like, "Hey, so like, remember how I voted you like prettiest," or something like that. Just try your best. Shoot your shot, brother. But it is really funny. And I think that if Sadie had maybe stuck around, because again, it's all about commitment to the game. What Dane and Angie showed each other is, I am committed to playing. And I'm committed. And that you should trust me because I'm committed. Whereas everybody else said, Dane and Angie are not important enough to my game and me as a player to stick around. And I don't care.
Sadie immediately verbalized that, saying, "Oh, it's the people who are on the bottom who are the most likely to get out. They're all hanging out because they're afraid for dear life." And she, Abby, and Delaram chortle off.
Exactly.
That's such a bad look for them.
Bro, it was a great episode because you're basically watching Sadie sort of villainize herself and then get voted out for it. And on the other side, you're watching, a lot of the YouTube comments have commented this is like, I think this is the beginning of why Doug loses, which is really interesting. If Doug loses, great episode, great season. If Doug pulls like a Russell and loses at the end, I would be fascinated by that.
Fascinated and horrified because if Doug gets in, I'd be I don't want to say disappointed or sad because I'll probably be very happy for the person who pulls that and wins. But it'll certainly be surprising and leave the season a lot to think about because there's so much going in his favor. I will say one other thing. I think this is results oriented and very because we're seeing the outcome of the episode. Angie losing this challenge was good for her.
I agree.
Yeah, I think people I think always keep an eye on who wins challenges, and as soon as you win that one challenge, like they're a challenge threat, and like you win 2 challenges, like okay, they're a challenge, and then you just, like if you've won 3, it's like you're gonna win the final challenge, aren't you? Right? So I think
you would not let her last another day in that game.
Yeah. So I think yes, her losing is good for her, especially because like her alliance stuck together. She wasn't targeted. It's ish. There's a lot of good that resulted because she lost this challenge. So that was good to see.
You gain tons of trust because you see that people are voting with you. You gain Dane's trust in particular, which I think is the most important element of this all. Is Dane's willingness to work with you entirely and completely. And you essentially you lose the battle. I actually think this is like huge brain, but like maybe if she had agreed to it like 20 minutes earlier and just said like, look, let's stick around and talk, but like I'll lose the challenge so that it doesn't look like we went that long. That could have been like a beneficial thing, but it's not the end of the world. But you just see, oh my God, I just have to say, I love passive aggressive Doug so much. It's like having an ex-girlfriend in the room. It's like, oh, you went really long? Oh no, I totally get it.
You must not trust us.
Oh my God. And I'm waiting for someone to be like, Doug is clearly saying shit that is like, he does not approve of what I just did. I'm waiting for anybody to catch it. It is so funny. Okay, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, no. No, I agree. I liked how I think Doug was especially miffed saying, wow, I flipped to y'all, but y'all don't trust me, which, to be fair, would you trust him? I don't think so. But still, it's like, I like how he's kind of, how he's trying to conceal how he's pretty upset that these people think they're so on the edge when he's shown loyalty to them.
Exactly. And it is just so fucking funny. I mean, like, everything he says, he's like, wow, like, you were on there for a long time. And Dane's like, yeah, I really wanted to win. And, like, I love that Doug just cannot be happy for Dane for, like, 2 minutes. He can't even just say, yeah, well, Dane's on the bottom, and he probably wanted to feel like he's safe. And if that lures him into a false sense of security, that's great. Instead, he has to be like, wow, okay, good for you. You didn't trust us? Oh my God, it is so funny. I just can't. I love it so much. Can we talk about Tim?
By all means.
What do you think's gonna happen with Tim? Also, is this the final 2? Is this gonna be a final 2? It has to be,
I was
right?
assuming this is a final 3.
What are we at? We're at 4 on the jury now.
Yeah, we merged at 11.
And we have 7 left.
I was just like, I was assuming that we'd oscillate because we saw a final 2 last season, that we'd see a final 3 this season. I don't know. I think the players it's hard to tell, right? That's the one thing I dislike about Modern Survivor is it's a final 3. I like when there's a lot of kind of guesswork about, like, I took a long time from watching Survivor and I came back for Blood vs. Water, then in Kagea, and you like Spencer's like, it's a final 2, it's a final 2. I'm like, oh, they must do this all the time, and then they didn't, and that was sad.
I agree. I think keeping it a final 3 would keep people on their toes. I do love the final 2-ness of it all. Survivor Michigan just did a final 2 recently that I thought was really good after doing final 3s. But I also think that like a final 2 we could potentially see like a dud in the end and then a very like obvious winner.
Yeah.
Or we could see something hilarious like Dane and Tim in the finals and see who the fuck can pull that one out of the hat. I would love that because it would just be the most insane ending to the season. I think I'm like such a fan of seasons that are like very clearly Jeff. Is this
going to be the Survivor Gabon of Survivor Maryland?
Survivor Gabon is hilarious. I love the seasons that are like a producer's nightmare. Like you're trying to tell a cohesive story and instead the lunatics make it to the end and you're like, what the fuck do I do?
You've seen Survivor South Africa Philippines, right?
Oh, that's the one with Palessa?
Yes, the one with Palessa.
I haven't finished it,
okay.
but I am at the final. They just voted out Katenka.
Okay, you're at the final 4 then, right?
Yeah. Where you're like, okay, there's Werner, and if they don't get rid of him, they're gonna lose. I hope they get rid of him, but I kind of love that it's like Tom, Jean, like who the fuck are these people? I love it. I love it because it's such a producer's nightmare. Like Palessa doesn't pair Idol. It's hilarious.
Yeah. So considering Sadie's out, which makes it hard to make Ghost Island comparisons this season any longer, you should finish watching that season because we might start having to make Survivor South Africa Philippines comparison to this season.
Okay, well, Survivor Global needs to upload the videos faster. I guess I'll watch it on like the I think I'm in the Tribe Has Spoken Facebook page now. Yeah. But I've been binging so much Survivor that I love to take it week by week, but I guess I'll do it now. And I think that the best thing about College Survivor is watching how people perceive themselves. Mm-hmm. And so I find Tim very interesting because he has this weird hero perception of himself with no founding. He's like, yeah, I'm Tim. I'm going to win.
Wait, we're all the heroes of our own story, right? All the time, whenever we each play our Survivor game, we are the hero because we're the protagonist because we're going to win. Or else why are we playing?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Like, we convince ourselves that we're going to win because we're great. But I think it's really funny that Tim is like, yeah, I've done all this stuff in the game. It's like, Doug has your idol. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. I think Tim needs to be sitting next to, there's a lot of people Tim can sit next to. Dane, Abby, Delaram, right? I think he needs to start looking at like those 3 and like saying, all right, I need to get rid of Santi, which he's not going to do. I need to get rid of Doug, which he's not going to do. And I need to get rid of Angie, which he's not going to do. Whoops.
Here's my prediction. I think they're going to turn on Santi next. Because either Doug plays his idol and they turn on Doug and it doesn't work out. Or they go, well, Santi's a threat. Why not? And like vote him out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the more boring route. I think we're gonna still see I was predicting this last round where they're like, no, surely they're gonna break up Abby and Delaram before voting out Sadie. I think they're gonna break up Abby and Delaram and then cannibalize each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're at that point in this game. It's my sort of prediction that we're at the point in the game where people like look at everybody that's around them and go like, threat, and like just start voting people out.
Yeah.
Like it feels, you know what it feels kind of like? It feels kind of like Survivor Edge of Extinction, where you have a couple goats, you have a couple good players, and you have a couple great players. And at Final 6, they start to pick off the great players, or at least attempt to.
Are you saying Eric has a chance to get back in this win this game? Like he promises at the Final 4 he'll return the win this
season. First of all, I will not rest until I know if Eric is on All Stars. I will not sleep. And if he's not, I will go on a hunger strike. Like I need that man to be on All Stars. And like just watching this season, you're kind of like, who is gonna get it by just existing? And I think it's Santi. Like Santi to me is being set up in this story, not as a hero, not as a big player, but as someone who's just naturally good at being charismatic. Mm-hmm. And it's gonna bite him so hard in the ass, it's gonna be hilarious. Like Santi has pretty eyes, and he's gonna get his ass voted out because of it.
I like this prediction. I mean, so you're Doug. So one last thing about Doug. You're Doug. You're in the Final 7. You have 3 idols. What are you waiting for exactly? Do you need a big move? Do you need to save someone? Do you just start saying save, boom, and then everyone's just like, oh my gosh, you have 3 idols. Right. Like that's enough in itself, I think.
Do you think Doug should make enormous moves? So one of my favorite org moves ever was winner of Real Foot 8, Alex Wagner, was like, guys, it's fine. You can vote me out. I have a headache. I want to go home. You can vote me out. And I was like, I know you have an idol in your pocket, and I know this is bullshit. So then I voted for somebody else and caused a tie, a 1-1 tie, because he tried to get out his big target. And that's what I kind of think Doug should do, is be like, guys, I'm just tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And he's like, okay, Santi, you and I, we're going to pick off whoever the fuck we want to pick off right now. And like, just do it. And then next round, vote out Santi. And then the next round, like, just make these enormous moves.
Yeah.
But the only problem is, if it's not a final 3, he will be incredibly vulnerable. Wouldn't that be something? If he saves himself and saves himself and saves himself, and then he falls right at 3, that would be insane and so good.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fun. I mean, I just, the only thing with Doug is I don't think he needs to make like off the wall brazen moves to really prove himself to a jury. I think a lot of people will see his game speaking for itself, depending on how much he burns people. That said, I'm just curious what is the best thing to do with them. Are they like, do you nothing final 7, 1 final 6, say you and Santi final 5, nothing final 7, nothing final 6, the dream of you choose who goes home at final 5? Like, that would be incredible. Like, you just like, yeah, I want Dane out. Everyone's immune. Don't read the votes.
I want Dane to go home. Yeah, and I really think, like, overall, we have some good contenders to win. Yeah. And I'm looking at this season in a negative light. They should look at the positives, which is we have people like Doug and Angie, and I think even a Santi win would be funny, and a Tim win would be funny. Like, we have contenders for the crowd.
I think you pretty much ranked the winning.
It's just a matter of how they do it.
Yeah, so I think
the win happiness.
Yeah, Doug first, Angie second.
Yeah.
Santi third, Tim fourth, Dane fifth. I'll let you pick 6 and 7.
I think if Delaram won, I think it'd be funnier than if Abby won. That's my theory.
Fair.
Because it's like Delaram just like got her ass saved in like week 3, and then it was just like, all right, whatever.
I mean, I think we hear more from Abby than Delaram, right?
I know, but Abby is like, even though Abby is invested a little bit, I just think that like Delaram has magically flowed through in a way. What is she doing?
Yeah, she's had a charm game, thanks to Eric.
What's the win equity of everybody? I mean, I really think that it's like, if Angie wins this season, everything turns around. Because she's trying so hard, and I want her to win.
The season comes with an underdog story. You know, so my last question is,
and I hope we get to talk. Yeah.
Well, I'd like for you to put yourself in the shoes of Abby and Delaram and tell me what they should do. Where are they going? Where are they doing? And you can even guess why if you'd like, if you really want to go out there.
Okay. Say that again. I think I lost some of that because my computer is going slow now.
Picture yourself as a conjoined Abby and Delaram. What are you doing from here?
Okay.
And maybe a why if you're feeling gutsy.
If I'm Abby and Delaram, I'm pissed at Doug, right? Fuck Doug. Fuck Doug. Fuck Doug. I'm holding a sign that says screw Doug. I think big brain move, you try and get Dane and Tim to vote out Angie or Santi or Doug, whatever they want to do. But you try and get those 2 boys to do something. Mm-hmm. You know, you if you're Delaram, you say, hey, we're original yellow. Like, let's take out the red. I don't want the red to win. You know, whatever.
Minus my roommate.
Right. Minus my roommate. But then, hey, fuck it. Vote her out at 4. You know, like... Like, I do think there is a big appeal for Delaram to go to Tim and Dane, because that would be a great move for Tim and Dane. Just replace Angie with Delaram, and you have a great final 3. So I think it's funny. I think if they're smart, they should go to the boys and appeal to them.
Yeah, because you can kind of see this yes, it's a 5v2, but it's really like a 2v3v2, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
Santi and
exactly.
Doug versus Abby and Dilaram versus Tim, Doug,
Tim,
Angie.
Dane,
No,
Tim,
Tim,
Dane,
Dane,
and Angie.
Angie.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a question of which group will get another group to click with them. Trust clusters or voting blocks, whatever you want to call it.
And I guess like overall, I do think that if Abby and Dilaram go with Santi and Doug, that will be the most disappointing outcome for me. But I understand it. But like that to me is the darkest timeline.
Yeah, I think the most fun timeline is Santi gets blindsided.
Yes.
And then Doug just goes on a power trip with idols.
That would be fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
If he just goes ape shit, I think it would be really funny.
So let's say Santi gets blindsided here. Doug immediately idols himself to safety. Final 6 takes out insert person here. Then final 5, he saves himself, and does he just save another person randomly for equity? Say, hey Tim, it's just you and me. I'm gonna play my idol, and we're safe. And you even cast your vote for Tim anyways. So like it's like, oh, they were targeting you.
I just hope this season ends good. That's all I want for Christmas.
That's what we want from every season.
I know. Now I really want to finish Survivor South Africa. I've been watching The Amazing Race, which is...
You're cheating on Survivor?
The Amazing Race is such a funny show. When you realize that all it is like people getting mad at each other and then like going 20 minutes in the wrong direction. Like that's all it really is, but it's so fun because people will be like, where's the clue? Where's the clue? And the clue's like right here. And they're like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And it's like, what's going on? Like, how are you this dumb?
So I watched the first half of the most recent season that had like some of the former Survivor players. So Rufus and Laura were on it.
Yep.
Karine and Eliza, Brent and Chris. Just watching Rufus and Laura wander through Japan completely lost was pretty fantastic.
Welcome to Vietnam. Yeah. That season's really funny. I actually think the season after this is the one that's airing right now. And there's a big alliance in it, which Amazing Race doesn't usually have. And I actually think it's a genius strategy to win the Amazing Race is alliance of 5 with 2 people on the fringes so that you can be the final 3. It's a really genius strategy that has completely worked for them. And like, it's bring strategy to the Amazing Race. I'm here for it because most of the time it's like, did you see what the answer was? And it's like, no, I didn't. I did, but I didn't tell them. And it's like, why not tell them? Like, why not? That's what I've been feeling. But I'm excited to. I'll watch Philippines tonight. I'll finish it tonight.
Okay.
It's not like I have anything better to do with my
life.
Let
me know your thoughts. It'll be fun.
I kind of want a Jean win. I've liked her from day one, even though she's terrible at the game. I've liked her a lot.
For those of you who are listening and not quite sure where you can listen or watch International Survivor seasons, there's a Facebook group called The Tribe Has Spoken. Join it. It has links to all the Australian and New Zealand and South African seasons that have happened recently, and it's fantastic. It'll help you if Survivor Maryland and other live reality games are not enough to sate your Survivor thirst in this dark times with no U.S. Survivor.
Yeah, there's also a YouTube called Survivor Official, and that has uploaded seasons as well. It's not like the same, but they upload very slowly and sometimes chaotically, but they have season 1 of Australian Survivor on there, and they have almost all of Philippines. I think they have Island of Secrets or some like the Champions South Africa, and that's a great place to watch as well. Shout out to them. And shout out to whoever was uploading Australian All-Stars on Daily Motion the day after I needed to watch it, because I would be at work. Daily Motion's the perfect work watch site. I love them.
Well, I think that's all my thoughts about this episode. Is there anything else that we haven't hit on?
Is there anything else we haven't hit on? I guess I hope let's all just hold our hands and have an Angie prayer circle. We got the Davon for America's Favorite House Guest, and now we need the Angie prayer circle more than anything. Just let's all really think about how much we want Angie to win this game.
Can we change the little bit scrolling in the bottom that says per circle for Angie here, facebook.com/live reality games? Oh, we can?
Yeah, hang on.
This is the best day ever.
There we go. So, yeah, make sure to tune in every Monday. Literally tomorrow, 24 hours from now, the next episode will be airing, and we will get to quell our fears or live in our nightmare world. Either one. And you can find Live Reality Games on Facebook, facebook.com/live reality games, where you can interact with Facebook groups for specific shows. Turns out, shout out to the Survivor Reddit Discord that I have joined, where there's lots of talk about live reality games, in particular Survivor and college survivors. Steven, anything else you're thinking of?
I'm writing a final for my students this week. It's going to be great.
They're going to be so mad at you. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And if you want to play a live reality game, check out facebook.com/groups/LRG casting. I happen to know of a great game where you might get to talk to me called Survivor New York that is open casting for when the vaccine is made. So if you want to play a game, go check that group out because it's a lot of fun and you get to meet new friends and keep the old. One is silver and the other is gold. Tune in next week. I got nothing else. I'm going to go watch Survivor.
Hope y'all happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy almost Hanukkah. Almost. Not really, but almost. Let's